Aquaba to all the Ghana players, because I know you're watching this because you're currently not at AFCON. Good evening to everyone else. And welcome back to the Ball Agenda Review Show! It's been a little minute. But we back.
We are back again.
Back to serve you up agenda-less reviews, analysis, and just opinions on the beautiful game that we know and love. I'll turn it over on my right-hand side to my ever so magnificent,
evergreen.
My evergreen co-host, Mr. Chinedu Asinugo. Such a pleasure to see you. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year to all our listeners and all our fans out there. It's just so great to be back. We've missed you all so much. I've switched my accent since the last time we spoke here. And I'll be
went to a new
like
boutique.
We're talking like a Nigerian commentator for the rest of the show.
So excited.
Well, on today's agenda, we have some really interesting stuff to look at. We're going to, first of all, I'm going to throw Fiams, under the bus a little bit here. What was your favorite moment, sporting moment over the holiday period? It's a random question off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be football.
Yeah. Favorite sporting moment over the holidays.
There's a lot.
Holidays starts when?
I'm on holiday now, Christmas now. Holiday is like, let's say from the 1st of December till now.
Okay. Because I'm trying to remember when the F1 season ended.
That
was crazy.
Part of holiday. It was part of holiday.
That was nuts. But I think my favorite sporting moment is Novak's related. Djokovic related.
Was him getting kicked out? That's your favorite sporting moment? Because
it just shows how with this period, the intersection between public health and sports and business and just everything is just so fuddled, and is just kind of ridiculous just how big of a thing it became and how it actually affected who got to participate in the Australian Open. And it's not like my favorite moment, but it's definitely a moment that stuck out as, wow, like this is the times that we're living in right now.
Yeah, that's great. For me, it was like you said, the F1, because I've never been an avid follower of the F1 or anything with racing at all. But that last final race, although I think Hamilton got shafted, I think it was very very fun to watch and very entertaining. And I think anyone that started watching F1 that day or that series would always turn back and say that's an amazing race to look back on. Definitely my favorite sporting moment.
Thanks for the curveball.
For the curveball, let's go. All right, so first thing on the agenda is top 10 transfer rumors of the January window. So as you guys know, turn of the year, we enter a new window, which typically is not as, I won't say fun-filled as the summer window, traditionally is. Teams look to strengthen on their already hopefully strong sides, and then just add a few people here and there. So we'll be talking about some deals that may or may not go through and where you think those people should end up. First on the list I have here is Dele Alli. Do you think he should make the move from Spurs? Do you think it's time? And who do you think would be willing to take him?
Yeah, I think Dele Alli, his time at Spurs is over. I think I've never really been a huge fan of Dele Alli because I don't think he brings much more than goals. And goals is obviously very important, but as you can see over the last 2-3 seasons when he's not scoring, he actually is a detriment to having the team. He's not creative. He's working a little harder, and I can give him that. He worked harder on the Nuno and in a couple of games that I've seen, but he's also not really your engine. He's not really a box-to-box, and his position is just kind of you're never really sure what his position is. You probably think supporting striker / central attacking midfielder, but he's not creative enough to really be central attacking midfielder and say. So I think it's time, I suppose, has definitely come to an end. He's not going to fit in the system. And I think besides ego, I think Newcastle would be a fantastic switch for him, as now they're strengthening with Chris Wood, with Kieran Trippier. They're trying to get
Lingard as well. But there's a two
Lingard
things
as well,
here.
but Diego Carlos from Sevilla to strengthen up their defense. So I think that would be as many goals as you can get in the relegation dogfight. And Dele Alli, if history is to be believed, is goals. And if you can get him in that team, he definitely is an improvement on what they currently have. There's that. There's Paris Saint-Germain. And that I'm just trying to think about where people tend to get linked. I would say most teams in the relegation fights need him, but I don't think they can afford him or he would want to go there. So that's probably where I would leave that.
I think a really quick point to that, then you mentioned that all he had is goals, but at his very best, wasn't he playing in that camp position? Yes, chipping with goals, but wasn't he more of a creative influence there as well?
Not really, because you had Eriksen.
That is true. That is true. So I can see that where Dele Alli just chips in with his goals and maybe occupies an extra defender as opposed to trying to feed in that final passing. And now Kane does that for Spurs, and so they don't need that. Great point. Next person on the list, Dean Henderson. He's a funny one because, going into the season, he was pretty much looking like a sure bet to take over that number one position at Manchester United, given the season he had, or the half season he had at Sheffield, and then coming back from the to get Manchester United. But De Gea has been absolutely fantastic since the turn of the season, and he's actually made the most saves in the Premier League so far. So do you think it's time for maybe Dean Henderson to give up that dream of playing for his boyhood club and then move on?
Yeah, because it was Solskjaer, and I think he was having a bias a little bit towards homegrown talent. We saw the tension between Dean Henderson and David De Gea, but really there's no comparison there. Maybe because De Gea kind of went through a tough spell in the last season and a half, you could make a comparison. But if both of them are playing at their true or at their top form, which David De Gea is right now, there's really no comparison. I think the perfect club for Dean Henderson actually is Norwich. Because every time I watch Norwich, and I'm sorry to be Premier League centric, Tim Krul looks every year of his age, if that's the phrase, if that's how people say that phrase. But he looks like an old goalkeeper, and with his movements when shots get played on the ground, I've seen some goals get even considered at heights I'd expect the keeper to save. And that's one of the things that I saw when I wasn't really the biggest fan of, and I don't think I really am still, the biggest fan of Aaron Ramsdale at Sheffield United last season. The goals that some of the goals I saw him conceding, I was like, to really succeed in the relegation battle, you need a keeper that actually is going to get you probably 9-10 points that are so vital. And Tim Krul, I've seen perform badly, but also I saw when he got injured, their backup keeper came in, and I actually thought it was Tim Krul just because of how badly he was performing. So I think for the next half of the season, as Norwich now have had some new life breathed into them and now are off the bottom of the table and are looking to kick on, I think they need reinforcements in goal. And I think Dean Henderson, having also played at that level previously, would actually be the perfect fit.
Yeah, and he's actually been linked to Ajax in the loan deal as well. And I think that would be a great move for him as well, to play at kind of the highest level. Ajax is playing Champions League football, and to be able to get on the field and get those minutes. And he's just 24 years old. So I think it's kind of playing that waiting game with De Gea and knowing that De Gea is, within the next 2 or 3 years going to peak and go out of the side, and then he can take over. So very interesting.
And that's most people, because I think Benjamin Mendy too is not the youngest goalkeeper. I guess you can get more. Edouard Mendy. Sorry, is not the youngest goalkeeper. I think you can get.
I'm sorry to our listeners. We don't mention Benjamin Mendy.
Yes, that's a mistake. that was a mistake. Just kidding. and I think you can get more years out of goalkeepers, so maybe it doesn't matter. But if some of the bigger sides have goalkeepers that are getting on in age, so. But and because he's just 24, I would honestly be a little bit more patient.
Moving on, Serginho Dest. This one is very, very interesting because Barcelona have just, they spent a lot of money bringing Dest in from Ajax, great player. And then this transfer window, they've just gone in and brought in Dani Alves, who basically Dest came in kind of to replace. They brought him back in, and Dani Alves is, Lord knows how old, I think 36, 37.
38.
38. And now he's supposed to be starting for Barcelona. And obviously, that leaves a little gap there where Dest is saying what's happening, and I really want to play football and I'm young. So what do you think about Dest at 21? Should he leave Barcelona?
No, I think you stay. I think Dani Alves was brought as a morale boosting signing. You have basically all the members of the old guard, Xavi coming back, Dani Alves coming to revitalize the squad, and that layer of leadership coming back. Dani Alves
they played a must-win game today against Athletic Bilbao. I didn't watch the whole game, but Dani Alves started.
No, Dani Alves is going to play, but how many more years of Dani Alves can you get? He'll play this season, absolutely. He wasn't brought to stay on the bench, but Dani Alves is literally almost 40 years old, and Dest is 21. I think you wait, you learn as much as you can from Dani Alves over this season, maybe next season, but Dani Alves isn't going to be at Barcelona playing meaningful minutes in 2024, which is next season.
Yeah.
Season after next, yeah.
That makes sense. Moving on.
And you see a lot of players make hasty decisions.
That's correct. Well, and to a certain degree, I don't blame them, which is what actually going to tie into the next person. To a certain degree, I don't blame them because, yes, they have the benefit of youth, but the numbers, or how do I put it, the age catches up to you pretty quickly, right? You go from 24, where you're a young player and you have so much potential, to 27, where you're almost beyond your peak, not beyond, but at your peak. And if you haven't established yourself in a system that works for you and in a place that works for you, then those years just go by much, much quicker, right? So the next person is Frankie de Jong, who was involved in a very, very massive move to Barcelona. And now at 24, he looks like, things are not really going that well for him. Not for him on an individual level, but more so because Barcelona is struggling as a club. What do you think about Frankie? And do you think he should think about making a move to somewhere like Man City, where he knows he's going to go win trophies, and at 26, 27, he's going to be an established name?
He's going to be an established name. You really think that?
I think Frankie de Jong is absolutely generational, in my opinion.
I'm not arguing with that.
You're saying to get into the Man City team, for instance.
Yeah, the generational players in Man City.
I think he can. I think he's able to. And if you notice something that City have done well over the years, especially with Pep, is they've been able to move players on very, very easily and already have the next person coming in, right? And I think in the next 2-3 years, there's been talks of Bernardo Silva, although he's playing very well, moving on from Man City.
That's not happening anymore.
Interesting. So, I mean, it
that's
doesn't
the
have
best
to be
player in the world you're talking about.
That's a reach. But what do you think about Frankie de Jong? And do you think he should, just kind of tough it out with Barcelona?
I think you stay. But you can look.
His contract doesn't expire till 2026.
Yeah, you stay, but you can look to places like Juventus if you really want to change. Juventus are definitely going through a period of transition. No better than Barcelona, but if you want to change, like most of the top clubs that you would think are better than Barcelona, maybe there's some transition happening at Real Madrid because of the age in that midfield, so that could potentially be an option. But Inter seem all set to the midfield. The top Premier League sides are set to the midfield. Bayern Munich set with them. So you wouldn't really be making a step up. I guess Barcelona are a Europa League side as of this moment. But in general, it's really hard to make a step up from Barcelona. And I think currently where you would step up to, I don't really see the scope for him to find a good move.
Manchester United in a heartbeat. And I think
that midfield has a lot of people in it. It would be an improvement.
It would be a very significant. significant improvement. And I think in terms of, you said a lot of the top 6 sides have their midfield set. I don't think Manchester United does. I think that's why they struggle now. That's worth another day. Moving on. Next person on our list, Dusan Vlahovic, 21-year-old, taking the Serie A by storm. Gone man. 32 games in 40 Serie A.
Arsenal need to. Oh, sorry, cut you off.
No, you're good.
Arsenal need to seal that in January, or they're never seeing that player.
Interesting. Yeah.
If that transfer gets to June,
Arteta, are you listening?
Steal that in the next 10 days, or you're never seeing that player ever. But there's an interesting thing going on with Vlahovic. Do you want to go to a club right now that you can kind of use as a stepping stone since you're so young, and then when you're at your peak? Exactly. Even Arsenal is pretty much a stepping stone. So it could be like that could be the sell that Arsenal and their team tries to advance to Vlahovic. We're here. We'll help you develop. This is our transfer strategy over the last year, buying players in and around your age. We're trying to build you into world beaters in the next 5 years. To Vlahovic, that's okay, next 5 years I can go to X club, or I just become a world-class player and maybe they build the team around me. Whatever it is, this is the time to advance that kind of argument. So if Arsenal want him, they need to do that right now because it's going to be a dogfight in the summer. Well,
he's been correct because his contract expires in the summer. Or actually next summer, his contract expires next summer, but he's also being valued right now at a whopping 80 million USD. I think I don't see a lot of clubs. Arsenal is a very, very unique proposition in that they need a striker right now. And he's, like you said, he fits that caliber of young players and young talent that they're looking to develop. So beyond Arsenal, I don't know anyone else that would shell out 80 million right now for Vlahovic. City could, but Haaland is in the market. That's my point, is that if you're shelling out 80 million, you want a Haaland, you want someone that has, which is basically Vlahovic, if he goes to Borussia, for instance.
Also United have a striker problem too.
They have a striker problem, but will they shell out 80 million for, and in my opinion, an unproven striker at 21? Haaland is proven, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's done the stepping stone thing. He proved himself first, went to Borussia as kind of a stepping stone. We all knew he was going to be Borussia. We all knew that was just all, a ploy to get, a record transfer or whatever. And now he's done that, proving himself again, and he gets that big money. In my opinion, I feel like Vlahovic should do that, go to something similar to a feeder club like a Borussia, and then know that you're going to have to prove yourself again. And if you're really that good, you will, and then get your big money move at 23, 24. Arsenal could do that, but I don't see any club beyond Arsenal doing that. On the conversation of forwards, next one on the list, we're almost done with the list. Next one on the list is Tony Martial. Martial FC, you like. God bless you for everything you've done for us. But the French striker has recently obviously had a very, very torrid time with Radney, more recently, with some really messy stuff coming out of camp where Radney said he didn't want to play, and Tony came out on Instagram to say, I would never say something like that. So really messy stuff. But Tony has really not hit the ground running at Manchester United. He had times when he looked like a superstar, but for the most part, consistency has been his problem. Do you think this is the right time to make that move? Or do you think, he's 26 and still a few years left, in his prime? Do you think he should just stick it out at Manchester United?
I don't think there's a future for Martial at Manchester United. Just even when I look at players coming through as well, Greenwood, Elanga, Rashford, and then you have the more established Cavani's and Ronaldo's. That already tells you what's going to happen for the rest of this season. But those players are still going to be there next season, and I think Martial is going to
Cavani in short term.
Except Cavani, but I think Martial has never really been viewed as that number 9 down the middle. So I think he'll still struggle for game time, and I ultimately think he'll get frustrated and push for a move. And I think that's already kind of what's happening, but I don't see a future for Martial at Manchester United.
Yeah, he's currently been linked with the likes of Sevilla, who I think tried to get him on loan, and also there's been talks of Newcastle, which be very, very interesting Seeing Wood and Martial play, I never thought I would live to see that day. But last but not least, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
Al Nassr.
Yes, sir. Why would you say Al Nassr that he's going there? Is that your?
They put in a bid for him. Yeah, loan with option to buy for 7 million.
That means they're probably giving him 500,000 for right now. But I mean, there's not much to say about that. We all know the situation going on. I mean, maybe you care to contextualize it for our listeners, or you could go on, you know.
Yeah, Arteta just blew the situation out of proportion, in my opinion, because we saw a similar situation at Chelsea with Lukaku doing way I don't even know where that name came from. That's the title of this episode. I actually don't know where that name came. Or Aquaba, one of the two.
Sorry to our Ghana listeners.
Yeah. Where are you traveling to tomorrow?
Me personally, I am going to Dallas.
Why?
Just want to console some of my Ghana girls. Sorry for losing. But here for you.
You want to party with them.
Party.
Are you
could not have said it better.
Are you Ghana Partey?
All right, we're done. That's such a dad joke. We're done. I would officially hand over my resignation.
No, I think what Lukaku did is nowhere near as bad as what Aubameyang did, and Tuchel was a mature manager about it, handled it like just a serious institution, got him back in the team, got him delivering value to the team. Arteta chose to exile his captain, strip him of the captaincy, now puts himself in a situation where he needs to get a striker because he's exiled Aubameyang, and Nketiah's contract runs out in the summer, and Lacazette's contract runs out in the summer, and you've loaned out Balogun. So because of your pride and ego, you've actually just given yourself.
I'll play devil's advocate for 1 second. In terms of comparing the comparison between Chelsea's handling of this and Arsenal's, Lukaku does not have the responsibility of being the striker. I agree with you in that they overplayed this, and I think there's hints of, in my opinion, a bit of racism. But this has happened before.
How do the Italians say it?
El racismo.
Racismo.
But I also have noticed that this is a serial thing with Arsenal. Look at their handling of Ozil and the thing around him. I think there's a lot of times that.
Who did that too?
Who was it? Was it not Arteta?
Arteta. So it's not Arsenal, it's Arteta.
Really? Well, I didn't know it was Arteta. I didn't clock actually. But actually, no. Why I said I didn't know it was Arteta was because before Arteta came in, if you remember, there was already some political stuff going on, right? And then Arteta comes in, looks like he's going to play Ozil. I think like we had a break or something. Then I think someone said, "Bro, what are you doing?" And he comes back and freezes him out again. But you notice that, and it's funny because these two players, particularly Ozil, Arteta, maybe not at their primes, but easily yards ahead of everybody else in terms of quality and class. And you don't get rid of players like that without a reasonable enough, justification. But they feel like they can do without them anyway. Arsenal, and over the last 2 or 3 games, you noticed the agenda on Twitter being, oh my gosh, great games played by Arsenal, blah, blah, blah. I love it. I love the grit. I love the fight, but they're still losing. And these are game changers that you're freezing out of the club. So I'm going to hand it back to you. But
because it's important that you mentioned that, because I'm trying to remember what exact game it was where someone brought it up. Maybe it was the first leg. No, it wasn't the first leg of the Carabao. There was another game. Maybe it was City where Arsenal scored 1 goal.
They scored first. City.
And I remember like the 6 games before that, everyone was like, "Oh, Arsenal scored 20 gols in 5 games or something," even though 5 of them were against Norwich and 5 of them were against Sunderland, at League 2 side. And saying, "No, Aubameyang, no problem." Now Liverpool, 0-0, 1 goal against City. Oh, and they didn't score against Nottingham Forest. That's, if I'm correct, the last 4 games, 1 goal.
They just scored today, right?
Yeah, exactly. So agendas are really nice to run when they fit what you're good. That's why we don't do agendas on this show, because agendas can work now, but fact is permanent.
Fact, yeah. So we're moving on then, and
and that's why that Bruno talk, it lived, because it wasn't agenda, it was fact.
I'm dead. I will not speak.
But I forget who advanced that Bruno argument. I forget.
I will not speak on this because finance. But where do you think, if at all, government does make that move, where do you think would be a good fit for him?
Al-Nassr.
Al-Nassr.
Go collect your 600K a week.
Al-Nassr.
Gonna get that sleepless night money that they gave Igalo, that he was having sleepless nights before he collected it.
But apparently he's being linked to FC Barcelona, who seems like they're being linked to everybody, but I don't know where the money's coming from.
They just bought Ferran Torres. I don't think that's a necessary purchase.
They just bought Ferran Torres, and I'm hoping that they're apparently also close to signing Alvaro Morata, who, let's talk about it another time, but I think it's a very fraudulent. What's the word I'm looking for? Something like embezzlement. That's what it is. But he's been linked to Barcelona, and I think whatever happens, I think stuff like this will always leave a sour taste in the mouth of people who are supposed to be, or the mouths of people who are supposed to be legends. Ozil could have left Arsenal an absolute legend.
Aubameyang has 92 goals for Arsenal. He was about to be the 3rd straight number 14 to hit 100 goals. And everyone was so certain that shirt would be so legendary, like 3 straight number 14 hitting 100 goals. And just randomly, they just, for no fault of his. And if you know what that guy has been going through, because there's the issues with his mom's health, there's his own personal COVID, then they said some stuff with hearts, like
and you think that
issues.
So there's only
stripping of captaincy, bro. Like, that's a lot for one man.
There's only one club that I've seen deal with people like that, and that club is Real Madrid, where they kind of forget the good you've done for them, and they tend to like very quick to cut off. And I never saw, I didn't think I'd be seeing that from a club like Arsenal, especially being almost like United in terms of
after Wenger brought all the class and all that.
Correct. Yeah. Right. So it's very interesting to see, and maybe that's that whole what's the word I'm looking for? I don't say commercialization, but I'm sure it has something to do with higher management and the owners as well having a say. But
Arteta is ungrateful.
Speculation.
Arteta is ungrateful.
Yeah.
Because this another season is going to finish trophyless. And he forgets that the only reason why he got the leeway to have another season and another season is that Aubameyang went crazy and won him 2 trophies single-handedly.
Arteta, I hope you're listening to this, because
so that's actually what kills me. Is like, this man is the actual only reason you still have a job, because all those times when Arsenal were losing 6 games at home in a row, they would have sacked him. It was, he won us a cup, let's give him some time. That is literally all he stood on for 3 years at Arsenal. And this is another season. Arsenal sits in 6th while playing once a week. They're out of the 2 domestic cup competitions in January. So now all they have to fight for is top 4. If he doesn't deliver top 4, then he has literally no argument for continuing. Yes, you can say he's building a young team, but you're still losing. You're still not making progress, and you're still unable to get over the final hurdle. Yeah. And you're freezing out the quality that you're always supposed to. The teams that win balance young players with experienced quality players. And we've seen it everywhere. Salah is in his prime. Mane is in his prime. Van Dijk is in his prime. And you have people like Trent Alexander-Arnold coming through that are really young. Like, you have Jota, who's also young. You have those types of players Curtis Jones. Now you start to bleed in the young people. You had Joe Gomez, who was also pretty young, playing an integral part in that team. And with City, you have Foden coming in. You had Sterling, who wasn't really that old. You had
but they always kept, even look at City when you talk about who their starting DM is now in Rodri. Fernandinho is still there.
But you always had the Fernandinhos. Ruben Diaz is like 23, but you also have more experienced people like Cancelo. You have more experienced people in and around. You had Aguero for the longest time, very experienced player. Kevin De Bruyne, like that balance is always there. Arsenal now just has a bunch of young players, maybe, and they throw in Lacazette, but literally everything is, and that's not going to win you anything.
You're right. They're going to play good football, and that's what I was trying to get at, right?
And they beat most teams.
I enjoy watching Arsenal play because I can see what they're trying to do. I can see Arteta's philosophy, and they play very attractive football at many times. But when you take out that experience, you take out those serial winners like Aubameyang, like Ozil, and you don't have a reason to take them out. You just take them out because whether it's political or it's emotional or personal. I think that speaks numbers because then it becomes a pride game as opposed to what's really good for the team.
It's everywhere. For every Mount that you have a Jorginho in the side. You have, you know, like and Arteta will realize it, but he's actually setting Arsenal back by not adequately. And I guess you can say there's Xhaka and there's Partey, but that's not enough, in my opinion.
All right, moving on. Let us quickly and succinctly look beyond the Premier League. Why I say this is because, and me and Payams had a little, off-air conversation here, but I'll be honest with you guys, the Premier League is looking really like a farmer's league this year. Barring the Premier League and Ligue 1, all the rest of the top 5 leagues around the world, or at least in Europe, actually have a title race going on. Which brings me to my follow-up question, because you want to say something, I'm just going to follow it up first. What's really the most entertaining league in Europe right now? Because the Premier League is fun to watch, and that's something that I think we always say, big teams gonna be the small team, or the small team's gonna be the big team, yada yada yada. But really,
nobody can beat Man City.
Exactly, but really, why is Pep's team about to go 13 unbeaten if they haven't already? I think
13 wins on the bounce they've done. 13 not wins. Unbeaten. Wins on the bounce.
I'm sorry, I'm used to that unbeaten speak. I'm a Manchester United fan.
Yeah,
they like to go unbeaten.
They didn't used to chop draw up and down and be draw 10 and win 2 and say you're 12 unbeaten. This is 13 wins.
Correct, and this is a team that
through the December period. Do you know that I don't even know if that's ever been done, because that's what people always say in the Premier League. In the festive period, people must drop points. That's when you start to see what the real title challengers are. You can just see a team lose to the 18th place team. These guys won every game. That's what Chelsea have one win in the last 7 through that festive period, and that's where they threw away the title.
If I speak on Chelsea, you need to throw me out of my house right now. But I think I guess, and I'll pose a question, right? Do you feel like maybe City's dominance of the league and their class is just way above everybody else, or do you think that is it a City being so much better than everybody else, or is it everybody else just falling below what's expected of them? Does that make sense? Is City just so good, or is everybody else just so bad? First of all, and then secondly, what's the most entertaining league in Europe?
Yeah, right? Firstly, to compete with City, you have to take care of your own business. And you know that phrase, that the phrase they say, you can only beat what's in front of you. Other teams have been dropping points without City. Chelsea were already not winning games and drawing games without playing City. Liverpool were already dropping points without playing City. But City have also been good. It then comes to what is the definition of a farmers league. And for me, a farmers league is a league where so much at least to me, this is my definition, where so much investment has gone into the top team that makes it impossible for any other team to compete. And so they just
you find, I think the point of the farmers logic was you find these top players, for instance, PSG players playing against people that literally
because they don't have the funds, they have to hire farmers to play for them.
Yes. They turn around and have everyday jobs the next day. That's what I understand.
And for me, that was Bundesliga for the longest time because you could see it. Bayern also had the most in terms of injection of capital, but they're also using it to weaken other sides.
Yeah.
Now, while City aren't necessarily weakening other sides, that injection of capital is significantly And while it was a little balanced with United also doing their $80 million and Arsenal more recently spending a lot on that one, everyone will talk about Pepe and Chelsea always spending money. City's
return on investment.
Not even return on City's spending is still unmatched. City have £100 million player that doesn't play.
Who, Grealish?
Grealish. Like that, no other team can afford to do that. Chelsea bought Lukaku and Lukaku must play. That's what you do with the £100 million. You don't buy £100 million player and not have a plan. Like City can afford to do that. So that kind of spending can never be matched.
So to reference that, then is it going towards the direction of a because it's
based on my definition of so much capital that no other team can compete and you end up having to play against essentially it is a farmers league.
I love it.
So which is why I'm not really, and that goes to your second question, what's the most entertaining league? I enjoy watching games that don't involve City in the Premier League. I think there's some really good games when Spurs play Chelsea, Liverpool play Chelsea, when Spurs play Arsenal, like
Spurs played Leicester. That was a fantastic
game. But I know that no team is competing for the title. I just enjoy those games. In terms of a title race and where I'm seeing a little bit more in terms of upsets, I say Serie A. I'm loving Serie A this season. Like the upsets when randomly AC Milan will lose or Napoli just get smashed out of nowhere, but they start the season unbeaten in their first 13 odd games, and Inter Milan just slow burn, start to build up a lead at the top. And there's still there's a race for top four there as well, even though there is in the Premier League. Everything about that league is currently very, very exciting. And actually some of the football being played, the goals being scored, actually really exciting. So that's for me, the most exciting league I'm checking for the most right now.
I 100% agree with that. And thanks for answering that. Okay, moving on to the next thing on the agenda. We'll be wrapping up in about 10 minutes. So to our listeners, stick with us for those 10 minutes and let it go.
Never hosting again, you're useless. 10 minutes, I will let you go. As if this lesson.
So I told you I'm going to be speaking like a Nigerian commentator for the rest of this. So I have two things on the agenda. First of all, are you familiar with what's going on at Derby County?
Yes. The hate for Mel Morris.
Yes, the hate for Mel Morris getting to try and sell the club. But do you want to contextualize a little bit for our listeners? So this will be a real teaching moment about what's going on at Derby County and the fantastic work that, in my opinion, that Wayne is doing right now to try and get them back on top. And then we'll quickly pivot from that to the next.
Yeah, I think it's a very curious situation at Derby. I've been so surprised with what's been going on in the last couple of years with the point deductions and basically administration conversation and the fans basically pulling together to try to get the owner to sell the club, an owner that they once loved dearly and thought put the interests of the club first. Currently, I actually don't know what the prospects are for them. It seems like just a really, really tough situation, especially for their coach as well. And I don't know what you're seeing and what your thoughts are on that situation, but it's just, I don't think I remember seeing anything quite like this.
Yeah, and that's, I think I was going to use this to pivot into the next segment, right, which is talking about Everton and what's going on there as well, Benitez. So what's going on at Derby is, they've been having financial issues over the past few years, and they recently had to go into administration, which means basically they are in a shitload of trouble with the EFL, or I think the EFL, yes.
They're on the hook.
Yeah, they're on the hook, and they had, I think, 12 points deducted from them, which put them at actually a negative. And so by default, most teams, if you have -2 going into the middle of the season, chances are you're going to go down. Now they have Wayne there, who's their current manager, and who obviously has a very big wage, and a lot of people think thought he was going to leave, but he's sitting there and trying to fight for them to come back, and make sure that they actually stay in the EFL Championship. So there's a lot going on there with them on the financial aspect, and like Ryan said, they're trying to get the fans are trying to get their owner to sell as well, because that would just mean more investment coming into the club. And then like I said, with Rooney trying to bring them back up, this Everton job just opens up. Benitez gets sacked from Everton. He's done a poor job starting off. And now Rooney is actually being linked to that Everton job. If you were Wayne Rooney, would you take the job, given that you started your career at Everton? You know, I think a boyhood Everton fan, actually. At least I know, grew up in Merseyside. So would you leave where you're at now with Derby, which is obviously a sinking ship, and will you kind of go to a team like Everton that they look like there's a lot of investment coming in over the next few years, and you're now playing in the Premier League as well?
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic question. I didn't mean to say actually, like most of them aren't. That's a fantastic question. I think it's very tough because you know what you're getting with Derby. It's a tough situation right now, and you don't actually know what the near-term or long-term prospects are, and if this can ever be salvaged. With Everton, it's a slightly better situation in terms of you're in the Premier League, like you rightly mentioned, but history tells us that poor management at the top level of the club, especially even with brands to Moshiri, who holds the purse strings, to who they've appointed, to just how the structure of the club works. Past history tells us, or I shouldn't say past history tells us that your white will be stained and you'll end up sacked for probably no fault of yours, but because you'll spend 30, 40 million on players like Iwobi and give them top 6 wages, mess up your wage bill, mess up your ability to sign up other players, and then leave a good coach with players that can't fit his ideas or aren't the players that he wants, which ultimately will end up in that, just keep you in that cycle of getting sacked. So I think it has its own problems. And the beauty, or not the beauty, the other thing that comes with that is everything that Rooney does, even if it's not as bad as it would have been at Derby, is magnified now because you're at Everton. It's a high-profile club. It's a top 8 club, and actually a huge club in the context of England. So even small failures will be magnified, and that also has a big impact on your CV and your career going forward. Ultimately, no one cares about all the things you do out of altruism. If you stay at Derby and it's a sinking ship and you stay till whatever happens, you don't get extra points for like you're not going to get hired at your next job because you were loyal to the like ultimately Everton is what's going to look good at your on your CV if you do well. So from that perspective, I would say you take the Everton job, but it comes with its own poison chalice, I would say. Yeah, and those are just things to be mindful of, because the implosion at Derby right now can kind of go under the radar, but the one at Everton is going to be well televised.
Well said, but I think if you're Wayne Rooney, you're definitely sitting there saying, like you said, you're not getting brownie points for sticking with the Derby at the point they're at, and now I wouldn't say your dream job has opened up, but certainly a job that you fancy. It's not like he's going to take up a job at Liverpool or something. So if I were him, I would definitely jump on that Everton job. Much harder, much steeper learning curve as well, because you've gone from the EFL to the Premier League. But not many times will you get that chance to make that jump, if that makes any sense. If things go absolutely sour at Derby and he ends up in the lower league next season, the climb up is also it's a steep one, right? So if I were him, I would take the Everton job as well.
Yeah, and just on a side note, isn't it crazy how you have Patrick Vieira, Steven Gerrard, potentially Frank Lampard, and now potentially Wayne Rooney as managers? That's just kind of nuts.
That makes me
Arteta as a manager.
That makes me feel very old.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. I'm telling you, in the next 2-3 years, Ronaldo.
Arteta played for Arsenal in like 2014, 2015. Like this was literally like 7 years ago.
I respect. I'm sorry. So to sum up our episode, Fayams, I'm gonna hit you with one last question.
And you're doing an outro.
I don't know what the outro is. What is this? To sum it up really quick, how do you think the next few months, and it's a very, very broad, open-ended question, maybe throw you off a bit. But how do you think the next few months in the Premier League will go? Do you have any bold predictions? I mean, we all know City is going to win the league. That's done. We're not going to, win the lottery with that, making that prediction. But what do you think is going to happen? Top four battle, who's going to get relegated, who's going to make some key signings, what manager is going to get sacked? What do you think is going to happen in the next few months in the Premier League? And I say Premier League because I think for the next episode we do will be a bit more topical for our fans listening. We'll probably delve deeper into the AFCON as well in the next episode. But so what do you think about Premier League?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we just lost your sound. Times. We cannot hear you.
You lost me. Okay.
You're back.
I'm back?
You're back. Welcome back.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel.
Yeah, oh my God. Oh.
Give us one.
So I got this from Mac, and what it says is that it's foundation, but
please answer the bloody
question. Top four, I think it's gonna be so tough because also we have to discuss Antonio Conte and how he has the wool over you guys' eyes to think that he's doing some serious job at Tottenham. Seriously, they played pretty much no one, and yesterday was the luckiest win I've ever seen in my life, bro. Like,
I'm not convinced yet. And I said this on one of my group chats. I said, I mean, I'm not.
I mean, the first matches were 3 home matches against the 3 bottom sides.
Not much has changed.
Free for all wins, and then away matches. He lost to Mora. He won in the last minute against Watford. And there was another away match where he performed poorly, and he was about to lose yesterday's away match as well. And all of a sudden, Leicester decided to be Leicester. But that's another thing. So, but potentially they could make top 4. I would say the top 3 we all know, and that 4th spot is too tough to call. Like, this would just be.
That's why it's called bold, bro. You have to be bold.
But in 2 weeks, I'm probably going to change it.
It doesn't matter. You can't change it in 2 weeks. That's why it's bold now. You make the prediction now, and in 3-4 months from now, when
I don't want it to be Spurs.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be Spurs because the other opponents, like, this is actually the easiest top 4 race I've ever seen, because the only real contenders are West Ham, and their squad is light, so they likely drop stupid points.
Spurs Arsenal have 3 games in hand.
Yeah, Arsenal up. Like, if they win their games in hand, they'll go over Chelsea. The Arsenal are poor, United are poor, Leicester are the poorest they've ever been. So this is actually the easiest top 4 race, and I think Spurs will probably end up doing it. I don't want them to, but they'll probably end up doing it. In terms of going down, I'm not certain, but I think Watford will go down. I think Norwich will go down. And I was so optimistic about the last one being Newcastle, because I just don't think Burnley can go down. But they've had so many games postponed that I don't even know if they're ever going to play them. They sold all their goals, and I really is looking scary. So I don't know. I'm scared to say, but I'll still go with Watford, Newcastle, and Norwich, just because I like Sean Dyche, and I hope he proves me wrong, and I really think he can.
I actually dislike Sean Dyche, so I will be very happy to see Burnley go down. I think for the sake of the sweet Barclays ball that we have come to know, Burnley should drop and go and play EFL.
Also, Gerrard is another guy pulling the wool over your eyes. Every serious match that he played, he lost, and then he drew with Man United. He lost to Chelsea. He lost to City. He lost to. That's
one where and I hate to be.
He lost in 3 big matches that he played.
I hate to be that hypocrite where in one breath I've said Arsenal is still losing and that, but I can see the clear difference in how. I don't want to say clear.
I mean, there was a new manager bounce, but they still lost matches that you expect them to lose.
New manager bounce, and I think the intensity for Aston Villa, coupled with the fact that they've made some very, 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 in my opinion, good signings. They brought in Lucas Dean, whatever. They've just brought in Coutinho. They're not done buying yet.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's more so potential, and the things that we've seen have been positive enough that I think Aston Villa is going to end up being 10th or 11th. So right now they start 13th. I think they'll be 10th or 11th, and I think they'll be up there.
I think Ranieri gets sacked. That's a prediction that I have. And I
It's just,
think
I don't know why they keep on buying Nigerian players. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they have directly to the agent, so I don't know. Someone's eating good. But thank you very much for joining us on this episode. It's been the Ball Agenda Review Show. We're so glad to be back. And just always remember,
leave agendas at the door. When you analyze the beautiful game, share your expert opinions, or do a topical deep dive, you really need to do one thing. Ask yourself,
do I really? See, I'm positive.
oh,
No.
really?
Do I really? Really? No more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.